Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back. I've talked about this topic before, something that can really add a lot of substance and insight to your life. I'm talking about spiritualism, and that comes in all different shapes and forms. Some people like to attach it to religion, and that's perfectly fine if that supports you. You don't have to. Another way that people practice spiritualism is with voodoo. Now, that's a word that makes a lot of people uneasy, mostly because of what we've seen on TV and movies and such. We're going to talk with somebody who is a priestess, and she's the co-founder of the Voodoo Spiritual Temple and Cultural Center, which is a nonprofit corporation in New Orleans. And she joins us once again. Priestess Miriam is on the program. How are you today?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. It's a sunny day here in New Orleans.
Ah,
With a little twist of chill, but very beautiful.
yeah, wish I was there. Um, the word voodoo, can you define it and just give us some insight on that? Because I think there's a lot of misconception as to what voodoo means.
Well, it is because I suppose people only look at the word voodoo, but not at the substance that is played out in different ways to meet the needs of humanity, to meet the needs of giving a service for one to become more edified with itself, or as African priest Dogbo Hanun says, voodoo mean God. And that still would leave a question. How would voodoo mean God?
Hmm.
Well, I would think, well, in the Genesis, it says, in the beginning was the words, and every word is God. It's like Stephen. Well, that's the word, it's God, right? But it's the substance, it's the character of that identify more than just what the fixed word is. And so, and therefore, in my awakened moment back in 89, a little voice came to me. It says, voodoo is substance. Voodoo has some ecological structure farther than just about the word. So people never examine the word and see the created substance of the word. They just
Hmm.
what people say about the words or who do they clarify the word voodoo to. And so, but the origin of that word comes from the French vocabulary system.
Hmm.
And due to the fact that the French had visited African long before the slave trade and had got acquainted, many of the Africans had gotten acquainted with the French vocabulary system. And the word, in the sense, it means to do and to apply in some form to make progress. So there, that's from that point of view.
Hmm. Is uh is the perception we have, many of us have with the word voodoo, like the voodoo dolls, and you can put a pin in it, and it can cause discomfort to somebody who the doll represents. Is that true?
Well, I like to mess with people, and I said, well, oh, the phone ring. Anyway, so I like to mess with people because people are like, wow. Well, I like to take it back when in the beginning, and the creator like, well, dag, I need some dolls. But anyway, and so according to the story, it says he laid out the pattern in the earth and structured the masculine and the feminine. And so to activate it, seemingly they took a reel from the man to activate the woman. But anyway, that's could be critical. But anyway, and so and therefore in that it had to have some active energy, feeling. So the nervous system, had to penetrate. That's And I like to take people off the grid that they freak out because without understanding the nature of our bodies and we are the dolls of life. But yeah, you can make dolls that can inspire people to rise beyond their complaints and isn't, or to throw their attention away from their friend who they call their enemy. It's better to give them a doll and let them stick the doll than to go out and try to shoot their enemy. It's
Hmm.
at least they throw the thoughts away from the person who have to continue to manifest his wellness for his life. But it's a different way you look at it. And so, but when you look at again the word voodoo and basically coming more from Haiti or the African peoples that had to organize and redirect their life from being infuriated as a slave. And so they had tools in their self of how to work measurement to deceive the French from continually holding them as a victim of being a slave to them. So maybe from the angle that the Haitians organized to set themselves free, and with the tools they use, the substance from the earth, the natural substance that could work just like the uh, said French had guns, they had other weapons, but every man has a weapon that he can use to free himself from any infuriated act. But if people came to terms that the sword that the Haitian used were more infuriated than the sword that the French used, which one is going to get more credit? Then, and which one is going to be more denigrated that it was a negative? The Haitians, because they were considered as a less degree. The French were more high because they have more weaponry to control and to intimidate.
Hmm.
But then the Haitian or the African in Africa, perhaps they had also learned the tools of nature that they could use for the good, as well they could use it to infuriate that which was infuriating him. So maybe we never talked about it like that, right?
No, and especially the connection to Haitian culture. I want to ask you
Okay.
the word karma. Do you have a definition of that, and what is your beliefs?
Well, we put out good, and it can still bring back something negative. And so people say, well, they're always putting out negative, and it's going to get back to them, and or maybe you got that because anyway. So it can be to the mind who looked for someone else to fall because he thought that person had did him an injustice. And so what he put out in some people's mind, it can come back to you. And so, but if you put that thought to a human and he accept it and he feel overwhelmed or paranoid, he may work the negative comment off himself, thinking that the word that the person had applied to him, that this too can come back to you. But it's how you plant a thought into a mind of an individual and how he can ingest it and become more paranoid of it, and he will work some bad comment on himself.
Mm.
But then the person who's waiting to see that he received the bad comment, they may say, well, I knew it. He got what he So it's all of these tricks of thoughts that can make you or break you, or to change the dynamic of how you reflect about yourself and other people's. And that can bring some good comment, right? So
I was just going to ask you if you believe in, everybody hear the word karma, just like voodoo, you think negative, bad things, but there's good karma as well, right?
yeah, and again about voodoo, people have not seen the peoples
Mm.
and the individuals beyond just the word. And it really, to me, I'm like, well, who do they apply the word to? It's like, but it makes good conversation and it keep things in a way that you can prosper and succeed and getting other things accomplished. Because people who freak out about it is not going to come in your way and disturb you. And that could be said to a lot of other things.
So you have a temple and you use it for tours, consultations, rituals, weddings, things like that. Also prayer. I know I might be catching you off guard here, but is there any way that you could share a prayer with us today?
Wow. I um I like the one that may it please DOJ here to prosper my ways, steps, and doing. Grant that my life be amply satisfied with your grace, your mercy that endures forever. Thank you.
Nice.
That's one of my greatest prayer. I
Mm,
like, may it
yeah,
please DOJ here. Oh
it's
God,
it's
to
almost like
prosper.
that's a universal prayer.
Yeah,
Mm.
it can be used
Uh,
and it's sort of open you up in the morning to face the day in front of you and different challenges. And many mornings I get up early and I will read that. And along with in the Bible we have Psalms 4. And it's something about that. May it please thee, O Jehu. May it please thee, O universe, to prosper our ways and steps in doing. Because without the universe, what do we have? And all the substance that the universe project out to us, we have nothing. It's like, well, dang. So a little bit of it to me and many of it to my friends and many other peoples around the world. It can have a little collection of this substance.
um, what's the universe? How do you define that?
That's universe can be defined or undefinable. By the time we thought we had defined it, then something else erupts or something else takes shape. It's like now, it's like it's a big old elemental character with the different symbolic structures in it that we call Earth, the stars, the moon. But yet we cannot know the depths of the universe because by the time we thought we had measured it, then there's another argument that takes place. It's like people's now. We settled many conflicts over the past, well, close to 250 years in America. But by the time we thought we had resolved one, there's another complaint. There's something else rises to offset the fact that we've done anything creatively great within the universal sphere. Because maybe the spirit doesn't want us to over fix and think we got it all great. But it's beyond how we can identify it. Because by the time you start trying to identify the universe, there's always something else, just Earth, the earthquake, or the storms, the tornadoes ripping through, just and ripping people's homes apart, and then we get the hurricane,
Mm.
and it's like, and how they can define the work through the earth plane, and and we have no control over that. So to me, I think that's the universe working beyond any way that we can decide that we know all, or we can concede that we know about it. Because it's going to do something so dynamic than we had ever thought would do. It's like with that hurricane that came and was like, oh my gosh, it's going over to Smoky Mountain. It's like, what the heck? How would that
Hmm.
happen? And so we pay attention to the universe rather than trying to over-define it.
Do you believe the universe is this big, wondrous thing that only wants the best for us? It wants to support us. Of course, we have to do our part. Um, do you view it that way?
Well, I sit with it and I not overly try to view it because if you do, you may get lost and you may be caught off guard in so much. And it's better to sit with universe as I've seen, and this past 30 so years has taught me so very much. And coming to New Orleans in 1990 with Priest Osman, and we had $6 in our pocket when we got off the bus. And all that has measured within that space, the space of time, it's like, well, Jack. And so, and not feeling that we were so off track and we were so with less or nothing. And so I take, well, within the sixth dimension of energy, you can attain so much beyond thinking it was so less. And so this 30 so years has taught me so much to sit orderly with universe, trying to run out to see how much I can grab from it. And it has assimilated so much to me than I could ever imagine to the depths that the universe can supply to you if you're not overly trying to go figure it out of what else the universe got from your perspective. And so, and since we're talking about voodoo, if that's how voodoo sets you still and let you acquire the substance and the membranes of humans' emotions and crisis can build such a successful wall around you. And it's just so much I could just share to person, just tell them, well, sit still with universe. But humans have to live out their life, their aggressions. They have to elevate through the stage that they have come rectal sides in from their soul. And no matter how you would want to just say, well, just sit still with universe. It's like what the Buddha said, just sit still and settle with yourself, universe, within the state of universe. But you can tell people all of that sweetness, but every human have to experience his own elements of himself and see how to work a wit of some definement far beyond what we could just want to convince him. If you just sit still, so many things can gravitate to you, so many things can evolve you and take you on trips that you never thought, you know. So many people would think, well, Priestess Miriam would have gone to Africa. I have never set foot on Africa soil. But in 99, I was on the plane to Russia, 9999, which I thought maybe in that year I would be going to Africa, according to the mythological vision I had. It was like, wow. But 5 trips to Russia, all the way to the Caspian Sea, having an opportunity to meet a Kazakhstan woman who was in crisis because her mother had been killed by the mafia. And she asked me if I would baptize her in the Caspian, in this Caspian Sea. And so it happened. But if I'd have been out overly looking for all of that, the universe wouldn't have had the opportunity to expand me to it. Do that make any sense?
It does.
If
And it makes me wonder. I want to share this with you. I have a friend, And when I talk about the universe, and I don't get into religious talk, I have my beliefs and I don't need to share. They're mine. Um, but I'll look at the universe and I do believe it's there to support us. But then I'll mention that to my friend, and my friend will usually say, well, who do you think created the universe? So I throw that to you. Is the universe a God?
Well, that's amazing that I laugh with people again and say, well, it's a thought. And thought is always were in the beginning. And so, and it rises the emotions in us to meet and conceive the thoughts. I was a
Hmm.
little distracted, but I like the I read the Genesis first chapter, and it made some. In the beginning were the word. In the beginning was thought, and you said with a thought, it can elevate into many directions, and that it can bring you more than you would have went out there and tried to make it happen. Just a thought,
Hmm.
and practical or impractical. And so I don't want to get off track.
Well,
So,
it seems, Priestess, that what you're saying here, a lot of it is what we think we create. Seems like there's, an element of manifestation there.
well, it could happen in that sense. And so that's what I got from Genesis, that somewhere thought were like this big space, or like Stephen Hawking was trying to see in the black hole, right? It's
Hmm.
just this big dark space. And somewhere the it energized the element of thought to produce some indifferency in this big space. And that's what we do every day. And we see it, it's so amazing when you look, how did that come to be? Thoughts. I was in Chicago. I worked in health field, and I was walking down by the hospital. I didn't know anything about computer. Like, wow. But somewhere, somebody consciousness had gathered up a thought of putting this computer together, and the computer science, and how much it has resonated far beyond that period. That was in the mid 80s.
Hmm.
And so, and then to think, well, I would have a business and have a computer. It was like Priest Osborne passed in March and 95, and somewhere later in the end of March, this gentleman came, and by the door he said, "Oh, I think you're gonna need this." And so he brought me my first computer, IBM.
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Wow.
like, well, I'm like, what am I gonna do with it?
And look at what we're doing today. Would we ever realize 30 something plus years ago that we'd be doing this? It almost is
Right.
kind of space age. Priestess,
Yeah.
we're out of time. Wonderful hearing your insight on all this. And if somebody
Oh my
wants to,
gosh.
yeah,
That's amazing. We be into this.
it goes fast.
Wow. I'm
Voodoo,
so
your website is voodoospiritualtemple.org. Do I have that right?
right. The website.
Yeah. And a great story about you on there, and just deeper insight and some really cool products too, including
Yeah,
soaps, powders. Yeah.
I was going to talk about the artistic part of the voodoo. You get your craft, and people's misery can bring out perfect creative things. They said
Uh,
misery love company,
well,
and it's very beautiful how life is, how
but
the universe is, right?
look at the artist known as Van Gogh. And as I understand it, he was going through some major challenges and kind of miserable. Look at the art that came from that man. Priestess, thank you so much for being here today.
It goes so fast.
I know.
I really enjoy this. It's really great.
Well, next time we get together, maybe we could talk about the crafts connected to voodoo and spiritual and such. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Right. There's an artist at work.
VoodooSpiritualTemple.org. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.